take a deep breath. Because breath is life.
It's a warm welcome to Global Classroom, where we will explore how each and every one of us is interconnected to each other and also our environment. Welcome to the Global Classroom. Today, you are standing with us as we bring mental health and well-being to the top of the global agenda. In partnership with WHO, kindly supported by UNICEF, and in collaboration with the Smithsonian Science Education Centre, National Geographic Society, BMG and ISA, we will be turning all of our focuses to one global mind. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought many challenges to all of us across the world. One of the most significant challenges has been our mental well-being. Worry, anxiety, fear and stress can cloud our minds and also impact on our physical well-being as well as our mental well-being. Today, right now, we are asking all of you to pause, to take a deep breath and to join us on our journey. Our guests will include Grylls, Cynthia Germanotta, Lindsey Stirling, Carol O'Donnell, Katherine Blanchard, Tierney, Andrew Brennen, Heather Small and Captain Dave Henson, just to name some huge stars there and key people taking part in our event. Now, I am Jeff Shaw, Headmaster of Scarisbrick Hall School, and alongside our distinguished guests, we'll take you on a journey around the world as we explore one global mind together. Our first guest today grew up in West London and battled with shyness and severe nerves, but also released albums with the band Hot House, and part of them people had great hits such as Moving On Up, One Night in Heaven and Search for the Hero. She's had great success with 2 solo albums, with the title track of her Proud album gaining global success and used in the most significant and high-profile events all across the world. Now, she's also taken to the dance floor in Strictly, performed to sell-out crowds, and an ambassador for the children's charity Barnardo's. As you're about to find out, she has an infectious personality and full of energy. And it's a real pleasure to say hello to Heather Small into the Global Classroom. Heather, how are you?
Good afternoon. I'm great, thank you. Good to be
Great
here.
to see you. Oh, it's great to have you here as well. You look so well, and it's a great picture so far as well.
Thank you so much.
Now, as you know, we've got lots of questions that have been sent in to the Global Classroom. I'm going to hone in on a few of those with you now to talk a bit about your journey, your personal experiences as well. So the first question we got sent in is as follows. So the songs that you sing are so powerful, and they absolutely are. But we know that you were also quite shy when you first started in your professional journey. So what kind of challenges did you face, and how did you overcome these on your journey?
I think for me personally, being shy was quite difficult because there's an onus on you to be gregarious, to be, seen as the life and the soul. And amongst my peers, I was happy, but outside in the world, I was very shy. And I felt that, and I think it was because when you're that shy, you don't trust other people with your ideas and your feelings. And this was something that I had to overcome, that there are people that you can trust. And this is one of the things I've said to young people. You've got to find somebody that makes you feel fantastic, that makes you feel happy to be who you are, and that you can share your thoughts, your dreams with, and know that they're in a safe place. So overcoming my shyness, because I really wanted to sing, and my singing voice was louder than my shyness. But to overcome shyness, I think you've got to know self. I wanted to sing, I learnt my craft. I think make sure that you become good at something that you love and enjoy, and that gives you confidence. The biggest part of shyness is a lack of confidence and a lack of self. And that can come from all different areas. It could come from being in a home that you're not treasured in, or, bullying. So first and foremost, I would say find something that you love, find somebody that loves you, and put your trust in them, and you can move forward with that shyness. Find your own voice, whatever that is. And mine was singing, but it could be anything else. Find something that you're good at. It could be chess, it could be drafts, and work your own way out of your shyness. Don't be pushed into doing something that you don't feel comfortable with, because that's not finding your own voice. That's trying to please somebody else. And so I think that please yourself, be happy in yourself, find something that you absolutely love, and find people that will support that love and support you as a person, given what you want and what you want to do, any ideas that you have, people that are supportive. I always think that children need a safety net, and my biggest safety net was my mother and my sister, and I felt that they always understood me and had my back. And my sister, this is the reason why I wanted to come and speak to you. She has bipolar. And so this is a prescribed mental disorder. And this happened when she was 14 and I was 50. Wow. And I know that, yes, there's people think that mental illness really and truly is about an adult condition, where there's so many children and so many people have their first episodes in teenage years. And it was very frightening for us as a family. And not only frightening, you felt at that time embarrassed, and it was kind of secretive. And I think that we made a pact long ago that we wouldn't be secret about it, because she had a broken leg. We wouldn't say, you wouldn't whisper in corners that she had a broken leg. And she has been an inspiration, and she's helped me not to be shy, because when she was ill, I dealt with the doctors, I dealt with the nurses, I dealt with her medication. And sometimes doing something for other people brings you out of yourself, and that could be voluntary work. It could be anything that puts you in front of people and you have to then express yourself. And some children, it could be joining an acting class, joining a choir, but sometimes you have to put yourself out of your comfort zone. And my sister's mental illness did put us all out of our comfort zone. And that happened to me when I was 15. So we've been dealing with it for 40 years. And I just wanted to say to children, especially in lockdown, because my sister's episodes came when there was great change, and COVID-19 and being in lockdown has been an immeasurable change for so many children. And it's very scary. And this can tip you over the edge into a mental disorder, even if it's not prescribed, but it's a short period of time where you feel anxious, where you feel worried, where you feel upset. And I think that the best thing you can do is find somebody that you trust and love and you can speak to. And that could be a teacher, it could be your peer group. You could set up a chat group with just your friends and speak to each other on a very real and true level, and make sure, like I said, that you could be each other's safety net until you can be your own safety net.
I think that's a really important message, actually, about stepping out and doing that. And I love the way you talked about your voice coming through as well. And it's so personal to you with your family. I think to share that on that level, there will be other families going through that and those difficulties. So thank you for such a personal message. It's really important to share. You mentioned before about your voice coming out as well. And the second question we got sent in was really they're right about the impact that your songs have had on their lives. I'm wondering, how important do you feel music is for mental well-being?
I think it's immensely important. Whatever the occasion, whether it be happy, sad, and everything in between, we have a soundtrack to our lives. And I think that sometimes when you're in a funk, when you're not feeling great, that you put on your favorite tunes. You know, the songs that I sing, you know, are uplifting and are hopeful, because this is the person that I am. And we all have dark days, but you always have to think that there's some hope, there's some light. And that's why I can sing those songs, because I have been to a place where it's been quite dark and it hasn't looked very hopeful. But you just you push on through. And I think music helps with solidarity. It helps with, it's a sharing process, especially when you do something live. It feels like a spiritual experience, because I try to bring the best that I am to any event. And I know that the songs I sing, they mean a lot to other people, but they also mean a lot to me still, because they have charted a journey. And so I get on stage and I give the best that I can give, because I think for that hour and a half, 2 hours, we can transport ourselves to a better place mentally and work with your well-being. And sometimes all that positive energy, it does make a difference to everybody in the room, in that field, or just in a room together listening to music.
I think you're absolutely right. And actually, I know the arts have taken a really big hit with COVID-19, and it is very, very difficult, isn't it, to get that through. But I think you're absolutely right to mention that. It's absolutely spot on. And very important.
We need culture. We need, because a lot of it is escapism as well. And sometimes, you know, I grew up on a council estate, 14th floor, and books and films and music were my escapism. They showed me that there was another world outside of my very small world. And I thought, I want to join that world.
I think it's a really important message, actually. And let's try and bring somebody in now to have a live chat with you, OK? I'm going to see if we have Stevie on the line, who's coming in the Global Classroom now. And Stevie, let's try and get your camera on and see if we can get you to speak live with Heather. So, Stevie, are you there somewhere? Can I see you on the screen and put your camera on for you? Hi, Stevie, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you.
I know you're super excited to see Heather, aren't you, as well? So what's your question for her?
My question is, how has singing helped you to cope in difficult times? And can you give one tip on how that would help people when they're struggling?
You know, the thing is, going through difficult times, you feel that you're alone. And I think for me, when it comes to music, listening to it, playing it, singing, being part of it makes me feel that I'm not alone. It makes me feel that I have a family. And especially when I get on stage and I make music, that is my musical family. That's my touring family. We look out for each other. And music can be a bonding experience between people. So, you know, sometimes when you're feeling down, all you want to do, you don't really want to talk, but you want to be with somebody. And sometimes music can be that somebody. It can be whatever you want it to be. If you're happy, if you're sad, if you're all the emotions in between. And sharing music with your friends, you know, it's been very fulfilling for me, because it's something that I wanted to do since childhood. But the making of music, there are endorphins, that, you know, there is something, it transforms you. It's just like you hear the music, you start dancing. It's intuitive. You play music and a 2-month-old baby will start to kick its legs and giggle. There is something in music that stirs us, that makes us emotional, and it makes us feel like we have a friend.
That's brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. And Stevie, thank you for joining us in the classroom as well. That was wonderful. Now we're going to go to a different part of the world now, and we're going to head across to Nepal. And I think we have a guest coming in now. So Samchai Lamsai, are you there in Nepal? It's a long way to go across there. Let's see if we can get her camera feed up. And if we're getting there to Nepal. Nepal, can you hear us somewhere?
Hello.
Hello. Can we try and turn your camera on in Nepal as well? I can definitely hear. Oh, there we are. Hi, how are you?
Hello.
Hi. So you're live with Heather right now. I've got a question for her.
Good evening. I am Samiksha Lamsai from Anajoti Boarding School, representing my country, Nepal. So my question for Heather Small is, do you think that music will play a key part in uniting the world now and after the pandemic?
Hello, Samiksha Lamsai. Thank you for your question. I think that music has a part to play, but I think that it is only a part. We have freedom songs, we have protest songs, we have love songs, we have songs that tell us how to be as young people, as adults, people in love. But most importantly, I think the change will come from young people themselves. And I'm here today speaking to you and to Stevie, and it gives me hope. I went to a Black Lives Matter march and it was full of young people. And I think that's where the biggest change will come about. People like you, Shalom, Sammy Shalom Shai, that are engaged in the world, want to see a better world, and are willing to keep their ideals and push that forward. Because sometimes as people get older, they get jaded. We need your young input to keep us on track. And I think the things that you learn, the things that you do, everything that you become will help us all have a better world and become better people. So music has its place, everything has its place, politics, everything. If you can engage in the world, and if you can find people that want to make a difference and have a voice, you know, you all stay together, you stick together, and you make this world better. And you enter politics, you enter the classroom, you enter every realm of life that has an effect on people globally, and you make the difference.
Well, thank you, Heather. That's amazing. So I think the message of make a difference, stepping out there, making it happen. And actually, we do have hope in the young people as well in what we're doing.
Yeah.
Now, we obviously, given the time of your session coming to an end now in some ways, would you want to share a song with us before we finish?
Oh, yes. I'm going to try and use my little technology now. So everybody bear with me. And I'm going to sing a song. I'm going to put on the music, and I'm going to cross my fingers, and we're going to see what happens. I look into the window of my mind, reflections of the fears I know I left behind. So I step out of the ordinary. I can feel my soul ascending. I'm on my way, can't stop me now, and you can do the same, yeah. What have you done today to make you feel proud? It's never too late to try. What have you done today to make you feel proud? You could be so many people if you make that break for freedom. So what have you done today to make you feel proud? Yeah. As you can see, it's all going so very well. Woo! Still so many answers I don't know. Yeah. Realize that the question is how we grow. So I step out of the ordinary. I can feel my soul sending. I'm on my way, can't stop me now. And you can do the same, yeah. What have you done today to make you feel proud? It's never too late to try. What have you done today to make you feel proud? You could be so many people if you make that break for freedom. So what have you done today to make you feel proud? Come on, everybody. We need a change, yeah. Do it today, yeah. I can feel my spirit rising, change, yeah. We need a change, yeah. Got to do it today, yeah. 'Cause I can see a clear horizon to make you feel proud, yeah. Let me hear you, let me hear you, let me hear you. What have you done today to make you feel proud? Yeah, 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 yeah. 'Cause you could be so many people. Just never break for free. yeah. So what have you done today to make you feel proud, yeah? Well, you joined the global classroom, yes you did, yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you for that. Amazing energy and an amazing message, Heather. I cannot thank you enough for that, to share that with us. And I know that song means so much to so many people around the world in what you've done. So Heather, thank you so much. Thanks for taking part today as well. It was wonderful. Now, following on from that is going to be a really tall order, but I've got a really good friend to hand over to. Andrew from National Geographic is next on the lineup. And now, Andrew, are you there somewhere, first of all? Can I see you? Hey, Andrew, how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Now, Andrew, are you going to sing for us or not?
Unfortunately, I'm not here to sing for you today.
Oh,
but,
okay.
I was bopping along to the beat there for a bit.
Wonderful, Andrew. Well, I'll let you take over the show now for a bit. You're in charge, and you're going to have an amazing journey with us. I know you've got a very special guest, Dr. Tierney, there with you as well. So I'll hand over to you, Andrew. Take it away.
I appreciate it, Jeff, and it's good to be here joining Global Classroom yet again. Welcome, everyone. I'm Andrew. I'm a National Geographic Fellow and Explorer, where I work to support young people who are taking action to protect our shared planet. You know, some of you may not know this, but nearly 50% of the world's population is under the age of 25. And what that means to me is that we can't solve any of the most important issues facing our planet without the leadership, urgency, and creativity that young people bring to the table. However, as young leaders, it's also important that we take care of ourselves and especially our minds. So I just want to say to everyone out there in the midst of this global pandemic who is feeling anxious or worried or concerned for your family or the future of the world, I want you to know that you're not alone. We all have these feelings. I have these feelings, and that talking about them, sharing them, and focusing intentionally on our mental health is the only way that we're going to be able to overcome. So at National Geographic, we use the power of science, exploration, education, and storytelling to illuminate and protect the wonder of our world. And we're also focused on how we can support young people and foster the movements, organizations, and inventions you and your peers are already driving. So today, I am really honored to be welcomed, to be joined by Dr. Tierney. Dr. Teese is a biologist, a filmmaker, and a research associate at California Academy of Sciences. She was named a National Geographic Emerging Explorer in 2004 and has since received numerous grants from the National Geographic Society for a diversity of projects. Dr. Teese is an explorer in the truest sense of the word, and is deeply connected to understanding our relationship to nature, not just whether or not we recycle and reduce our use of plastics, but our emotional and social relationship with the environment around us. So without further ado, Dr. Teese, please take it away.
Oh, thank you so much, Andrew. It's just such an honor to be in this event, and thank you all for putting it on. I'd like to start today just by immersing ourselves in nature for a few moments and take a couple deep breaths, and let's just be in the natural world. So let's run a video for that. Now, maybe while you've been watching that, you've felt your shoulders relax a little bit. Your breathing slow down. Just turns out that being in nature does your mind and body a lot of good. So let me just switch to here, and we will. So it turns out that that's why physicians around the world have started prescribing time in nature as part of their medicine. The Japanese, for example, have a practice called Shinrin-yoku, which translates to forest bathing. And this is where their patients go into the forest and they let the sights and sounds and smells wash away their stresses. There's a growing mountain of studies showing the wide range of benefits the natural world can bring our bodies and our minds. For instance, having greenery in your neighborhood reduces crime. Having a plant in your workplace increases productivity. Even just looking at nature can have these beneficial effects. In hospitals, having a view on greenery can speed your healing and reduce the amount of painkillers you need. And in school, it's so important. Having greenery around your school can enhance your attention and your focus. So knowing all these amazing benefits, how do we actually figure out how nature works? Well, we've got some really cool tools that we use to measure nature's effect on our well-being and our mental health. This little tool is called a galvanic skin sensor, and it measures sweat, which is an indication of how stressed we are. This is a picture of cortisol, which is a hormone that we produce, a chemical, a substance we produce when we're stressed, and we can measure levels of that in our saliva. And we can dive into the brain. This is amazing to figure out nature's effect on us, because that's, the brain's controlling so many things. It's an amazing organ that weighs just 3 pounds, but it devours 20% of what we're eating. If you laid out all the neurons in your brain, you could circle the earth more than 2 times. It actually contains 100 billion neurons. That's the same number of stars that are in our Milky Way. And these neurons are firing off all the time. You're using 100% of your brain. Don't believe that story that you only use 10% of your brain. You're using 100% of your brain, and it's making these electrical signals that we can measure with equipments like these headsets called electroencephalography headsets. They're measuring the electrical signals your brain is putting out, like alpha waves and beta waves. And it turns out that when we look at nature imagery, that puts us into an alpha wave state, which is correlated with meditative and relaxed states. So it's really affecting our brain waves in this way. We don't get into that same mental state when we're looking at busy city scenes, but when we look at nature, we do see this. To explore into deeper parts of the brain, we can use tools like functional magnetic resonance imagers, and they're measuring blood flow. When a part of the brain is very active, it requires more blood flow. So we can see the parts of the brain that are becoming very active when we're looking out at the natural world and compare that to when we're looking at busy city streets. And it turns out when we're looking at beautiful nature imagery, a part of the brain known as the nucleus accumbens is ignited, and that is our pleasure center. That's part of our reward pathway. So it turns out that looking at beautiful nature makes us feel pleasure deep in our brain. Interestingly, when we make the choice and the decision to help protect areas and to donate to good causes to protect nature, that same part of the brain becomes activated. So as a filmmaker and a scientist, I'm deeply curious about the visual elements in nature imagery that influence behavior. And it turns out, and we can use all these cool tools to figure that out. Turns out that mountains and ocean and those long distance views, those are some potent elements. And having tools like what I've shared with you help us find those answers. The importance of nature to our mental health, it has never been more important, especially now when more and more of us, more than half of us, live in cities than in the country. And cities tend to wall off nature, but they don't have to. Take, for instance, Singapore. Singapore has dedicated over half of its space to being covered in some sort of green, like these amazing, spectacular gardens by the bay. And that may have something to do with the fact that Singapore is always comes up as one of the happiest places to be. I love this cover of National Geographic. So, are you feeling stressed, unfocused, overwhelmed? Well, all I could say to you is try nature. Knowing all the good that nature does for our brains and our well-being, well, hopefully we can all work together, feel restored, and return the favor.
Dr. Tierney, thank you so much for sharing that information. I think a lot of us might love nature intuitively, but the way that you've connected the science and the biology behind it is really very useful. And just to know that, you know, for those of us who might be feeling some anxiety or mental health challenges, that there's something maybe right outside of our door that might be able to help us with that. I'm wondering though, I mean, this is such cool research that you're engaged in, and we've only touched the surface. But thinking back, you know, how old were you when you first realized that you had a passion for the environment? Is there a story that you can share with us?
Oh, well, I can't remember a time when I didn't love being outdoors and love studying animals and tracking animals. I mean, and the ocean for as long as I can remember, really. And I found that, you know, I always wanted to study zoology, biology and zoology. I remember, you know, for being with animals, but then reading zoology textbooks was like opening a treasure map. All these secrets that were revealed to me. I just loved it. And I remember learning, oh, well, that's how a fish swims so gracefully, and that's how a cheetah is able to run so fast. And oh my word, I'm related to redwood trees and whales. We all share the same common ancestor. That's amazing. I'm part of this 4 billion-year-old story of life. And I'm not just connected to life, I'm related to life. I'm not alone. I've got the most amazing family tree out there. So studying life and biology was just always a passion.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think that there may be some young people watching right now who are just at the beginning of their love affair with nature and their journey. But also, you know, just understanding that in this moment with the pandemic and everything else that our world is facing, it's a little bit more challenging than normal to get exposed to nature and to experience nature. And so I'm wondering, as an expert in your field, if you have any advice for young people who are maybe locked inside, but who are searching for this connection that you described.
Yeah, well, there's lots. I mean, of course, if you can put the sky overhead and the soil underfoot, that's a good start. And if you get in water, that's even better. But there's some really great resources out there. The Children in Nature Network has great resources, online resources for connecting internationally. Jane Goodall's Roots and Shoots. But if you are truly stuck inside and you can't, you can't get outside, try growing something. You know, just take a seed and plant it. And it's just, you know, you could do that on your kitchen table and watch a seed sprout. All you have to do is add sunlight and water, and this miracle happens right on your kitchen table. Try to connect yourself by growing something. And just know that nature can be your best therapist. Nature, when you're feeling stressed, just try to get some outside time. The vitamin D from the sunlight will do you good. The fresh air will enhance all the microbes living inside your body that make you healthy, your microbiome. And me being an ocean person, I think if you could just find a body of water like a stream or a river or a lake or the ocean, it turns out that stress is water soluble. So that would be a good thing too.
And you know, Dr. Teese, you and I had spoken about this a little bit earlier, and since our conversation, I've actually begun cultivating some green onions in my house from some leftover food scraps. So you know, in even 2 days, it's grown so much, and it is a really nice, peaceful thing to watch. Last question I have for you, Dr. Teese. I mean, you've been all over the world, and really just admiring the beauty of nature. I'm wondering, what is the most beautiful place that you've ever seen in person?
Oh boy, Andrew, that is just an impossible thing to answer because our planet has so much beauty. It has so much beauty. And you know, from the mountains of the Himalayas to the reefs of Australia to just the, you know, the Big Sur coast where I live, and you know, there are so many, we are so honored to be inhabitants on spaceship Earth, such a beautiful spaceship that we hurtle through space on. I can't pick a favorite, but I think one of the most beautiful thing is seeing when my kids are outside, just seeing the love they have of the outdoors, and how it brings smiles to their faces and to their friends' faces, and seeing that interaction. I think that's one of the most beautiful things about being in the natural world, is the effect it has on people and my family and just everyone.
Well, thank you, Dr. Tierney. Your admiration and love for nature is infectious, and I hope that many of the young people watching felt what I'm feeling now as well. You know, folks, our world is truly facing unprecedented challenges. A global pandemic, a climate emergency, refugee crisis, just to name a few. And while all of these challenges take different forms, all of them require the passion and the creativity, like I said earlier, of young people if they're going to be solved. But it's so important that we take care of ourselves while we are solving problems in our community. I just want to invite everyone to join GenGeo. You can find it #GenGeo on any platform. GenGeo is a global community of young people who are prioritizing empathy, tenacity, and really embracing a passion to fight for what's right in our world. And so if that sounds like something you're interested in, if you're looking for a community of young people who are committed to solving problems in their communities, check out GenGeo. National Geographic wants to be here for you. And with that, Jeff, I'm ready to pass it back off to you.
I've got to say, what an amazing sort of journey and story there. And things stood out to me there about the passion, I think, Tierney, that you have of nature. And I love this sort of idea that stress is water soluble. I know that around the globe right now, people are trying wild swimming, doing different things, going out there to explore nature. And let's really encourage that. And Andrew, your passion and your leadership as a young leader there is fantastic. So thank you to National Geographic for that. It really sort of hit home to me about what we can do and the message. Really blessed to have you here. Thank you so much for bringing that. I want to go to an outdoor theme here as well. So let's go to somebody who loves the outdoors. I want to welcome the most recognized probably faces for survival and adventure. He is the youngest Chief Scout, multi-Emmy Award winning. He served in the British Special Forces, and by the way, he's also climbed Everest. He's all beyond that as an acclaimed author. And let's say, trumping all that, is a really terrific guy as well. Bear Grylls, welcome to Global Classroom. How are you today, Bear? How are you?
Yeah, we're all good. Yeah, it's very nice to be with you. Hey, what's your name on the right?
Oliver, can you hear us okay?
Hi.
How are you? Always much nicer speaking to kids and teachers. Tell me, how are you? You're surviving?
Yeah, I'm surviving.
Good for you. What year are you in?
I'm in year 6.
Nice. And have you been okay for lockdown? It hasn't been too awful?
Yeah, I've been okay in lockdown. I've been able to get outside and play, so Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you. Have you got brothers and sisters?
I've got an older sister. She's 15.
She's really bossy.
Yeah, most of the time.
Yeah, I've got an older sister. My sister's really bossy. You wouldn't believe it. Let's just hope let's hope she's too old to watch this.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
She is
I'm in trouble.
though.
Are you into sports? What are you into?
I'm into football, and I also like my maths and other subjects.
Oh, nice. Good for you. Good for you. So are you going to be asking me the question, or is the headmaster going to be asking me the question?
I'll be asking you the question.
So we've got a number of questions, Belle. So there's a couple from different people around the world. We've got one from Oliver, who's there, and then later on we've got one from Josie, and she'll be on. And we've got a great question coming in from Myanmar as well, and that is going to come in from Zolmin from Myanmar. So each question will come in at each time, and I'll introduce each pupil for you before they come online as well. And it's great to have you here as well.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Wonderful. So the first question, here we go. So our theme today, Bear, is One Global Mind. So we're asking the world to pause in this moment and focus on mental health and well-being. Now, we know you're someone that children around the world look up to, and we've had loads of questions sent in to ask you, and they're very excited about this. And you're certainly famous for encouraging resilience and a spirit of exploration. So how important has mental health and well-being been for you, and how have you developed your own mental strength as well?
I think mental health is part of who we are. You know, we're made up of, we've got to look after our physical health, you know, got to try and stay fit and eat healthy and sleep right. And we've also got to look after our mental health, you know, and that means just being aware of how we're feeling and having close people and close friends or family that you can share feelings with. You know, I think I can only ever speak to what I do to help my mental health, but I do consider it a key part of, you know, my arsenal. You gotta have good weapons around you, tools to use to keep good mental health strength. And I think for me, one of the key things is I'm really lucky I get to spend a lot of time outside. I think they've done so many studies now of actually how fresh air and sunlight makes a huge difference to our outlook on life. And I think that is true from my experience when, you know, just being able to get outside, it doesn't have to be in anywhere sort of spectacular, just being outside, even if it's in the garden at home or in a local park, or even if it's a walk to school, you know, that time is, I really find it kind of helps me. I think having really good friends around you, you know, that you can share stuff with is important, you know, and great friendships, as you know, is always based on vulnerability, being able to be honest with one another. And then the third thing I always do to help my mental health is to get active. You know, I do think when we're moving and when we're exercising, it gets the blood flow going, and that cleans out old kind of dead cells in our brain and our body, and it keeps everything moving and fresh. And if you look at nature very rarely stands still. It never stands still. You know, even on geological scales, you know, everything's slowly moving. And I think we are designed for that. I think when we stop, we stagnate. And I think to keep exercising really helps for me with my mental health. But I would also say we're all a work in progress, you know, and I don't think any of us ever perfectly have it together. You know, that's not how life is it? So I think being honest, good friends, outside, keep exercising. That's helped me.
That's pretty great advice in a nutshell. Thank you for that. And I know that you're absolutely right. None of us are perfect, and we all have challenges in what we do. I totally agree with that. And one difficulty is, you know, when we face mental health challenges, how can we balance having that sort of inner strength, but also knowing when to ask for help and to reach out for help, not being afraid to do so?
Well, I think inner strength is reaching out for help. You know, they're not two separate things. You know, it's not a question of when you reach out for help and when you rely on your inner strength. I think the truth is inner strength is about being able to be honest. You know, and sometimes that inner strength is going, I've got it, I've got this, it's good. And sometimes it's going, oh, I'm struggling at the moment. And that's where having great friendships matters so much. And I look at the way we film as a tight team, as a crew, you know, there has to be honesty and vulnerability. And I think when you're honest with people, you create bonds with people. And where there's bonds, like with anything, there's strength. So sometimes the strongest thing is asking for help, and we've all been there. And that is definitely okay.
Totally agree. Absolutely spot on with that. Thank you for that. I'm going to bring in actually Oliver now, who's got a question for you to ask first of all. What's your question, live with Bear now?
Hi Bear, my question for you is, what gives you the confidence to present on TV?
Well, I think the honest answer is I don't always have that confidence. You know, sometimes it's a real struggle actually, and it's like, oh, I'm really nervous before this adventure or before this episode or this shoot that we're doing. And I think I've learned in my life that it's okay. It's okay to feel those nerves. You know, those are all pretty natural, and they're part of, you know, what prepare us. So I've learned it over the years not to try and sort of push those feelings of like, oh, you know, I'm nervous of this. I don't push it away. I kind of embrace it. I use that tension, those nerves, that little bit of fear, almost to keep me sharp, keep me focused, make sure I know what I'm doing, you know. And I think being a little bit nervous with stuff, it's like a muscle. The more you do things, the more you're familiar with that feeling, the more you go, okay, this is good. You know, I think when we never do stuff that's outside of our comfort zone, A, we never grow, B, we never fail, and therefore we never grow. But also we never get used to this feeling of trepidation. And the feelings of trepidation and nerves is just part of life. You know, whatever you do, if you're going to be ambitious in your life and go for it, if you want to, you know, Ollie, I know you're a great footballer. If you want to, you know, play in the Champions League, you're going to be nervous before that final match, you know, and the more used to that feeling you are, the more you're going to be able to control that and then use it and give you focus. So I don't run away from those feelings and nerves. I try and get used to them, try and embrace them, try and use them to keep me sharp.
That's brilliant. Thank you for that as well. And obviously this event goes out around the world to hundreds of thousands of children as well. And we ask the questions in from around the world. And one of our questions now is coming in from Myanmar, from a remote school. And we've got an A team out there to get the question filmed for you as well, Bear. And here's a question coming from Myanmar first of all. It comes from Zormin.
Hey, thank you for your question. Good for you. How do you build good teamwork in a team? You know, it's such an important question, and all of our lives are about building and being able to operate well in teams. And I think a team is just an extension of a friendship. You know, how do you operate in a relationship one-on-one? How do you operate with friendships? I think that honesty and vulnerability is key. I think this thing of being a friend to people when it really matters, I would say, is the beating heart of that answer. You know, it's about not trying to compete with each other, whether it's friends or people in your same team. You're on the same team. Help each other, work for that greater good, and being able to be a friend to people when they really need it. You know, I think if you just take one thing from our time together today, take that, you know, the value of close friendships and the value also of resilience, because ultimately everything we've been speaking about comes down to that, you know, resilience. And again, resilience, it's like a muscle. The more we practice it, the stronger it gets.
Thank you very much, Bear. And we'll get that message straight back to Myanmar and translated for you as well, and make sure that does get across there on a tablet for them. Now, another question now is coming in from Josie, and she's got a question to ask you, so we'll get her online now, ready for you. Josie, are you okay? You're now live with Bear. How are you doing?
Hi, Bear. What would you do?
Hey,
What would you do when you get scared or anxious?
First of all, hi, Josie. Good. You feeling all right? How's lockdown been?
It's been good.
Have you got brothers or sisters?
Yeah, I have a little sister.
Yeah, good. Oh, she must be grateful to have you. to look out for it. It's been a pretty tough time for lots of people. How do I deal with when I'm anxious or nervous? I think that same thing, you know, just don't run from the things we're scared of. You know, so often in life, we're kind of like, we get conditioned to run from things we're scared of. You know, we're scared of public speaking, or we're scared of, you know, getting ill, or what's the other fear? Death. Everyone's, you know, whatever people's fear is, we always sort of run from the things. Snakes, you know, dark places, spiders, you know, don't confront them. But actually all that happens with our fears is that they grow. You know, when we turn our back and we run, the big green monkey of our fear just gets bigger and bigger. So I've learned in my life, because first of all, there's many things I am scared of. I've learned not to run from the fears, but to stand and to face them and to walk towards them, even if I've got to hold hands of people I love around me, but keep moving towards the difficult stuff. You know, and what I've also found is when I do walk towards the stuff that I'm scared of, often it disappears, and you get there and you realize, hold on, that wasn't such a big deal. Why was I scared of that? But you only learn that by walking towards it. So the lesson I've learned, when I'm anxious, I go, this is a trigger. This is good. This is a chance to grow and to conquer something. And I'm going to try and walk towards this, however scary it is, even if I've got to hold the hands of people I love around me.
Thank you very much for that. I think echo for a lot of young people around the world. It's been a scary time in COVID-19, and a lot of fears have come out, and a lot of challenges for young people as well. Perhaps a question for you is, what advice would you give to young people around the world in this moment who are struggling, especially during COVID-19? Many countries still in lockdown, they can't get out and see people. Is there anything that you would say to them, particularly at this time, in this moment?
First of all, yes, it is a hard time. You're not alone. You know, you are not alone. This is a global thing, and many people are finding it hard, and you're not alone. Secondly, is that storms don't last forever. You know, we'll come when we're older, we'll look back on this time and we'll go, wow, do you remember that time? And it was hard, but look what happened, and we learned how to do this, or we adapted like that, or, you know, I became best friends with that person, or, you know, we built this or made this, or, you know, wrote this, whatever it is, you know. So the storm won't last forever, know that, but how we act in these difficult times does last, and therefore act with kindness and act with, you know, with loyalty and with love, and use this kind of opportunity, use this hard time as an opportunity to shine good things. And that is the point. I think, you know, yes, it's a hard time for all, but it's also a time of huge opportunity. Opportunity for us to grow and to show our character and to reach out to people and to connect to people. And it's one of the reasons I want to do this with so many thousands of kids around the world. It's a chance to connect and say, we're all in this together. Together we're stronger. The storm won't last forever. But remember through it all, resilience, you know, that never give up spirit. If I had to pick one thing, that would be it. That never give up, you know, comes from inside, and we all feel like giving up sometimes, but it's okay. You know, keep moving, even when you don't feel very strong, keep moving forward. And yeah, that's helped me more than anything, more than talent or skills or knowledge, you know, that in my life, of which hasn't actually been very much talent, but I've gained quite a lot of skills and knowledge over the years. But none of those have been as valuable as a never give up spirit. That's the one to really hold on to. And we all have it. It's a fire inside, even if sometimes it doesn't feel like a roaring fire inside. Sometimes just a little flame, a little ember. But that's enough. We all have that spirit inside, and lean on it and get friends, become friends with it. Test it every day. That never give up spirit.
Grylls, that's amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here, taking part in the Global Classroom, and to sharing your time with us. I know it's greatly appreciated. I wish you all the best right now in what you're doing, and thank you so much.
Oh, no worries. I think you guys are doing a great job. So well done. Thank you for having me along.
Well, thank you very much, Per. That's a wonderful message there. An important message about resilience and that never give up attitude there as well. And a nice thread flowing through about getting outside, being active in what you're doing as well. So we're really pleased behind that. Thank you so much. We're now extremely privileged actually to welcome our next guest. Our next guest is Cynthia Germanotta, who is president and co-founder of Born This Way Foundation. which she launched this with her daughter Lady Gaga in 2012. Born This Way Foundation supports the mental health and wellness of young people, empowering them to build a kinder, braver world. Now, under Cynthia's leadership, Born This Way Foundation has reached tens of thousands of young people across the country, but also across the world, launched innovative youth-focused programs such as teen mental health, first aid, and conducted cutting-edge research to improve the understanding of mental wellness and the impact of kindness. Now, in May 2019, Cynthia was appointed to serve as WHO Goodwill Ambassador for Mental Health, which I'm delighted about. And I'm even more delighted that she's here right now in the Global Classroom. Cynthia, how are you?
I'm well. How are you, Jeff?
Really good. And I love the T-shirt saying "Be kind" there. It stands out such a great message as well. So thank you for joining us. And as you know, we've had messages sent in from around the world. And we have got some key questions for you to take. So I hope you're ready for these questions to get grilled by the Global Classroom. So here we go.
All right.
The first one's an interesting one, actually, came in. And it says here that the world has come together as we face the common challenge of COVID-19, which is true. But many have seen this time, and although it's tragic and a difficult time, also as an opportunity to stop and to pause and to perhaps reset our mindset. In this moment, what do you think that we need to look at concerning mental well-being?
Thank you so much for that question. I mean, these are really very, very challenging times for all of us. I would say, we know from our research that 50% of mental health issues develop by age 14 and 75% by early 20s. So this is really a time of uncertainty, and we're reminded so much of the importance of our mental health. It's very crucial to our overall wellness as much as our physical health. They're very interrelated. One can often manifest itself into the other. And, I like to say there's no health without mental health. So in terms of what I think we should be looking for now, one is we should be looking at taking care of our mental health the same way that we look after our physical well-being. It's vitally important. And I think, two, make our self-care and mental wellness a habit. Do what we can to help ourselves, to help our mental health, to help us cope, whether it's listening to a song that we like, distracting yourself with a great movie, going out into nature, FaceTime with friends. But don't ignore your feelings. Really think about them and pay attention to them. And you can also draw on skills that might have really helped you in the past to manage through difficult times. And a couple of examples of those are maybe you want to keep a daily diary of lessons that you've learned during this time. I write in a gratitude journal every morning, 3 things that I'm grateful for. You can also express your feelings through art, through music like Heather does, through climbing, drawing, dancing, playing music. But most importantly, talk about your feelings and your concerns with someone that you know and trust. As Heather said, there is somebody out there that you trust. And we think it's important to know who that person is now. If you have a physical illness, you generally know who you're going to see. You'll go to your doctor, you'll go to hospital. But who would you turn to if you have a mental health issue? And we think it's important for you to identify that person right now. Who's that person that you could trust and start talking to about your mental health? And we feel that kindness and compassion to yourself are incredibly important when it comes to your mental health and also to somebody else's. And every day is a new opportunity for you to practice that.
That's a really important message, actually. I think the idea is there. I love the idea about making sure that we understand, our physical health, we need to exercise and we need to eat well. And we must see that in the same way as mental health now. It's so important to recognize them there. And we don't often see that, do we?
No, my daughter often says, just because you can't see it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. So we really have to listen to our emotions and take them seriously and work on them and talk about it.
And we've noticed through our sessions on the Global Classroom, we've become increasingly aware that there are children that may have been struggling with their mental well-being, perhaps for the first time in lockdown. And also there are some of those who've had past issues that are now resurfacing because they're in a situation where there's a lack of their normal support structure, which could have been a grandparent or a friend at school. And so there's a need for people to reach out to each other more so now. So what advice would you have for young people about this?
You know, we feel it's very normal. I want to say to all the children in particular, it's very normal to feel afraid now and to have the strong emotions that you're having. And everyone is responding very, very differently to this situation, whether it's your first time or not. This is a traumatic experience, and often there are triggers. We call them triggers. They're things that remind us of events that happened in our past, and it raises our anxiety. So it's okay to not feel okay right now. Don't put more pressure on yourself. The best gift that you could give yourself and someone else right now is kindness through two things: kindness through connection, and kindness through having conversations about your mental health. Your friends are a great source of support and comfort for you, and I'm sorry that we're not in schools now, so you don't really have that, but everybody's talking about social distancing, and we like to change that a little bit. We say that it's important to remain physically distant, but socially connected. This is really a time when technology is our friend, and we should be using it wisely. And there are some great tools that we offer for you. It's really, I know for some of you, you may be frightened to have a conversation about mental health. You might not feel confident. You might feel afraid. Am I going to say the right thing to my friends? But we have partnered with an organization called jack.org, and they have a wonderful tool called bethere.org. And it teaches you how to have these really difficult conversations and how to talk to a friend, ask the right questions, and get them some help. And also through our foundation at bornthisway.foundation, Get Help Now, we also offer some great conversations and ideas of ways to have these difficult conversations. I mean, the pandemic has really uprooted so many of our lives, and these are important tools to have so that we can really support one another. And practicing kindness and building a more supportive team around yourself is really a great way to tap into that connection and to tap into those conversations.
Really practical, sensible advice. Thank you for that. I think some great reference points to go to as well. I just love what you guys are doing in the foundation about this and supporting it, so thank you. We're going to go try and go around the world now. We've got a question coming in, I think, from Cambodia. Okay, it's a beautiful question. It's coming from Thayun in Cambodia. Let's try and cross over there now and hear what's being said.
Thank you also, Thayun, for that great question, and thank you for being brave enough to ask it. I'm sorry this has affected your school life, because it's really an important time to learn and also be with friends right now. But I want to share with you that there's a saying, particularly here in the States, I don't know if it's around the world, but there's a saying that laughter is the best medicine. And it's the best medicine because it relieves stress, it helps your muscles relax, and it helps our immune system. So you're already doing something really wonderful for yourself and your friends, and something that's helpful. So it's okay to laugh, and it's okay to laugh a lot. And I know it might feel strange to laugh and feel joy at the same time that you might be feeling fear or sadness, but you can have all of these emotions at the same time, and you shouldn't feel bad about that. So I encourage you now to do what makes you happy, what self-care that you might have. We see a lot of young people really finding their purpose now and making a difference in the world, whether it's, sewing masks for people that need them, helping their neighbors. So there's many things that you can do to make yourself feel happy right now. And I also think it's important for you to develop a schedule. When you're in school, you have a schedule, and it makes your day flow, and it makes your day happy and joyful. And We don't have that now. So I think it's really important to try to develop one, no matter how small it might be, some type of a little routine for you that keeps you on track, and also being kind to others. I know that when I feel down or when I might feel sad, I try to do something for somebody else because it makes you feel better. Dr. Tierney talked about the endorphins or the cortisol. That's also created when you're kind. You get these feelings, of cortisol rushing in your body. So it's a very positive thing when you help somebody else. And I think another great way is just embedding kindness into your everyday life. We have a challenge at Born This Way Foundation called Be Kind 21. We know from research that if you do something for 21 days, it can become a habit. So we'd like to challenge you to be mindful of kindness for 21 days and hopefully beyond, and join our challenge. You can join it at bornthisway.foundation/BeKind21, and it's an opportunity for you to just embed kindness into your everyday life. And it has, I call it a ripple effect. You know, if you take a pebble and drop it in a river, or if you drop it in water, it echoes far and wide. It has a ripple effect. So kindness does the same thing. We encourage you to join us and spread kindness, be part of that ripple effect in the world.
Cynthia, thank you for that. I love the idea about the pebble falling in there, and we all want to try and do that today in this moment as well. The next question came across from Europe, from Andrea from Europe. And he says down here that the world feels a bit fractured at the moment, a bit broken, with everyone arguing. What can we do to come back together and accept each other?
I really understand, Andrea, where you're coming from, because I think we're all seeing that, and we're all concerned about the anger and how people are treating one another. And I think the best thing that we can do to come together is, one, model kind behavior in our own selves. You know, it starts in your heart, and then it starts in the home. So it's very, very important to model kind behavior, and also treat others with respect. Treat them the same way that you would want to be treated. And it goes very far and very wide. There's also great value in sharing positive stories that are happening, also sad ones, because it helps validate other people's feelings and they realize that they're not alone. So we've really learned that there's a power in storytelling, and they're just great ways of understanding other people's lives and maybe learning something, maybe getting inspired, you know, on our own as well. And we have a platform called Channel Kindness. You can read about it at channelkindness.org. And these are incredibly inspiring stories. It's a digital platform for young people who write stories of kindness and bravery and resilience in their communities. So we invite everyone to share your amazing story and join us on that journey.
Well, thank you very much for that. It's amazing. Now, in terms of questions, now we're almost at the end of your time in the Global Classroom. However, is there perhaps a message you want to share with the children around the world today, particularly?
Absolutely, I would. First, I'd like to thank you so much, Jeff, and WHO, UNICEF for having me. It was an honor to speak with you and to be part of this program. But to all of the young people who joined today, first, I want to thank you for helping to be part of building a kinder and braver world. I want you to know that we value each and every one of you. Your voice is so very important in this world. And now, more than ever, you have an opportunity to find your purpose and make a difference in this world. And together we can be that one global mind and build a kinder and braver world. And I think as a call to action or a call to arms, I would like to ask you to do two things for me, just two. Always be kind to yourself and others. It spreads far and wide. It's that pebble in the water. And two, find that someone to turn to now for your mental health. Don't wait until a problem happens. That's why our foundation exists. Born This Way Foundation exists because my daughter, Stephanie, who many of you may know as Lady Gaga, developed mental illness, anxiety, and depression in middle school. And neither she nor I really had the knowledge or the resources of the best way to help her. And she was very young. She was only 14 years old. If she had known at that point, if we had all known who to turn to, it would have been so much better, early on. So I encourage you to identify who that person is and start having those conversations now. Care for your physical health the same as your mental health, and start talking about it. And I invite you also to come with us on this journey, get connected to Born This Way Foundation. You can visit us and join us on social media at BTW Foundation. So thank you. We value and love you all.
Cynthia, we absolutely value and love you as well. So thank you much for being here, what you're doing, and for sharing the work of the foundation that yourself and your daughter have done, and also the personal story at the end about your family. It makes a huge difference to us. We wish you every best blessing going forward, and thank you for being here in the Global Classroom with us all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Now we move on to a section now, which I know you all look forward to. One of our collaborative partners and key partners here in the Global Classroom is the Smithsonian Science Education Centre. Now, I'm going to introduce some guys over here now and say hello to them and to greet them. I'll introduce them, and they're going to talk you through some very practical steps here about mental well-being as well. Now, I've got my good friend is Carol over here. I think, Carol, can you hear me?
Yes, Jess. How are you, Jeff?
Really good, really good. Great to see you again. I'm going to hand over to you guys now.
All right, thanks so much. So my colleague, make sure I can do this really quickly. My colleague, Katherine, Blanchard, and I are going to be talking today about mindfulness, if you will. My name is Carol O'Donnell of the Smithsonian Science Education Center. And I spent a lot of my years as a teacher. And so we are here today to talk to you as teachers. My colleague, Katherine Blanchard, she's also an educator, but her expertise is in international education, that she works with you and students like you all over the world. So COVID-19 first happened, we worked with the World Health Organization, who was co-sponsoring the Global Classroom, as well as the Inter-Academy Partnership, to develop a series of lessons to help young students like you know how to protect yourself during this difficult time. For example, we say in this guide for youth that you should stand from one another, or 2 meters, that you should wash your hands with soap and water for 40 seconds. You should wear a cloth mask, as Cynthia mentioned. And as Grylls told us, it's important to exercise. But we also know that it's also important to support youth emotionally, especially because, as we've heard today, COVID-19 can be very frightening. So none of us wants to get sick, and none of us wants or our friends or our teachers to get sick either. So the question is, how can you better deal with COVID-19 during a countrywide lockdown or a personal challenge? What can you do to address concerns that you might have even about global climate change, the refugee crisis, or other socio-scientific issues that Andrew from the National Geographic discussed? So today, my colleague, Katherine Blanchard, who helps the Smithsonian Science Education Center engage in mindfulness, will introduce you to 2 activities that you can do at home to reduce your stress and to stay emotionally healthy during this difficult time. Our goal at the Smithsonian Science Education Center is to help you understand science while also focusing on your emotional and physical well-being.
Thanks, Carol, and hello, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be with you here on Global Classroom today. As Carol said, some of the Smithsonian Science for Global Goals project materials are designed to help young people keep themselves, their families, and their communities safe from COVID-19. This includes not only physical health, but also mental health. So let's take a few minutes to talk about how mental health and information are connected, and how we take in and evaluate new information. I'm not sure about all of you, but I've been receiving so much information about the pandemic and so many other global challenges lately. It's coming through friends and family on WhatsApp, through social media like Instagram and TikTok. Okay, let's be real, I'm not actually on TikTok. and through news sources, local, national, and international. Some of it's important and useful. Some of it is scary. Some of it seems maybe untrue. And it's that potentially untrue stuff that I want to talk about for a couple of minutes and how that connects to our global health and our global mind. False or untrustworthy information about COVID-19 can be found everywhere. This might include things like magical cures, information about where the virus came from, or who's responsible for spreading it. And when people share this information, it tends to travel very quickly and can be really harmful, not just to your own community, but to others around the world. People might change how they're protecting themselves or not protecting themselves. They may develop untrue ideas about others, and their trust in science and strong institutions may dwindle. But we can all help stop the spread of false information about COVID-19. It protects all of us and keeps us safe, and it's contributing to our united global health. It can also protect and strengthen your own mental health. As you continue to learn more about how to keep yourself safe from COVID-19 or about any other topics, it's important to decide what information to listen to and what to share with others. One way to do this is to slow down, stop, and think. I'd like you to take a minute to think back to the last piece of information that you received before the global classroom. It could have been about the pandemic, about global climate change, or about something else. The first thing we can do is investigate the source. So think back to that piece of information. Where did it come from? Is it from a major credible news source or a known scientific institution? Did you look at the date of its release? Is there information presented in a way that's intended to make you feel a feeling, maybe scared or angry? A lot of times false information is written to evoke that emotional response. The next thing we can do is trace that information to its original source. So think back to that information. Did it have quotes from people? Can you go back to those quotes and figure out who originally said it and whether the context is correct? And is that information supported by data and evidence? We are a science education organization, so we want everything that students do to be driven by data and evidence. Finally, if you think back to that most recent piece of information you learned about COVID-19, and you're finding, or any other topic, and you're finding that maybe it wasn't a super great source, maybe the information didn't have any data to support it, people were misquoted, or it was written for that really emotional response, it might be time to find another source of information. So think about what other sources you might be able to refer to. This is also a great time to talk to your family or a trusted adult or other person, just as Cynthia and Heather said, and really talk about what you're learning in the world and how you're taking in that information. Making sure that we're learning from credible, reliable, and timely information sources and sharing it with others is one of the most important things that we can do to keep ourselves, our families, and communities safe. It's one of the best ways that we can be globally minded and globally invested, supporting our fellow humans around the world. I totally get that this can be an overwhelming topic and weigh on you mentally. It's okay to turn off the television or stop checking social media to take a break. We want you to stay informed, but certainly not at the expense of your mental health and well-being. So the next time that you're feeling stressed out or overwhelmed, there are a couple of things that we recommend you do through our Smithsonian materials. The first is starting by making a list of all the activities or rituals that you're already doing to make yourself feel better and feel safe right now. Cynthia spoke about some of these things. This list might include things like staying connected with friends through technology, reading a new book, playing your favorite game or sport, or doing an art project, maybe cooking a healthy meal with your family. And you can refer back to this list and pick something off of it to engage in whenever you feel anxious or overwhelmed. One thing that's on my list that I personally like to do is to practice a calming breath, which I think we have time to do together right now. So start by closing your eyes or finding a soft point of focus for your vision. Notice your breath and where it's naturally moving through your body. Take a big inhale and a big exhale, letting all the air out of your lungs, preparing for the calming breath. On your next inhale, let's inhale for a count of 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold on to that breath. And then exhale for a count of 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's take that twice more. Inhaling, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhaling, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. One more inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. One more exhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. When you're ready, open your eyes, come back into this space. How do you feel? Whether you're looking for quality sources of information about what's happening in the world, doing some of your favorite things off of your list, or practicing a calming breath on your own, remember that there are scientists, researchers, health workers, educators like Carol and me, and other young people around the world who are all working to keep each other safe physically and mentally. No matter what's happening, you are not alone. So with that in mind, I'll turn it back over to Carol.
Yeah, thanks so much, Katherine. Really appreciate it. I do hope that you'll try these activities at home, either by yourself or with someone that you live with. You make a list of the things that calm you, practice your breathing as Katherine taught you. And as you work through these activities with others, don't forget to also stay safe during COVID-19. Physically distance yourself from others by standing 2 meters or 6 feet away. Cover your mouth and your nose with a cloth to stop the spread of COVID-19, and wash your hands with soap and water. And as our friend shared with us, get outdoors into nature and make certain that you are staying safe. So as our good friend, Dr. Swaminathan from the World Health Organization tells us, it is really important that everyone in the global classroom today, we're all telling you what you should do, but it's really important also that you discover these things for yourself. So take care, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy, both physically and emotionally, and stay informed. Mr. Shah?
Wonderful stuff over there. I really enjoyed that. Thank you very much. I was breathing along at the same time as well. So Katherine, thank you. Carol, thank you. A great contribution. The next guest in the classroom now is Dave. Dave Henson, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you, Jeff. How are you?
I'm really good. Now, Dave, obviously your story is quite an amazing one and quite an amazing journey of mental resilience, overcoming things and working through there. Would you share with us a bit, first of all, about the journey brought you up to this point where you are right now and some of the key things that have happened to you in that time? I know it can't be for an hour's sort of lecture, but condensing your life into a short burst, first of all. Is that okay?
Yes, no problem at all. So I'm coming to you today in this global classroom from the south coast of England, where I grew up, and it was always my dream as I grew up to join the army. So I joined the army in 2008. I joined the Royal Engineers, and after a little bit of time in training, some time in my unit, I got deployed to Afghanistan. Now I went to Afghanistan as what's called a search advisor, someone who is in charge of a team of guys who go out and look for improvised explosive devices on the battlefield. Now this is obviously a very dangerous job, as it proved out to be. During this operational tour, I stood on a bomb in February 2011 and ended up losing both of my legs. And from there, I've sort of had to come back and come through rehabilitation, really. And during my rehabilitation, I started to get back into running. Now, this was always something which I wanted to do. You know, just as Beara said earlier on in this classroom session, getting outdoors and getting into nature is what I absolutely loved. So I got myself some running prosthetics and I got out and I started running. I became quite good at this. I entered some competitions such as the Invictus Games, and I pushed on, and I realised actually I was quite good. And in 2016, I managed to get myself across to the Rio Paralympic Games, where I managed to win a bronze medal in the 200-metre sprint over there, which was another fantastic achievement for me. But over the course of this period where I've had to adjust to life with prosthetic limbs, I sort of realised that they weren't really quite as good as I expected them to be. Certainly not evenly distributed around the world. So along the way, I've gone into academics, and I've just finished my PhD in amputee biomechanics, learning how the amputee's body works in this changed situation. And I now have a new job at Imperial College here in the UK in London, where we design and develop new prosthetic technology for use around the world. So a varied few years from army officer through to design engineer.
That's quite an incredible journey. You've gone from what could have been sort of life-ending tragedy to academia, sport at the highest possible level. Now, if I just pause there, that's an incredible story, okay? And we've got some questions sent in for you. And the first question takes you right back to that time in Afghanistan. I know it's probably a difficult time in some ways, but Sophie wrote into us and asked, how were you able to keep yourself mentally in check whilst undertaking such a risky and demanding role of looking for IEDs and doing that? How do you cope with that?
It's a really great question, and I'm sure there's probably a certain level of insanity in there somewhere. But for me, everyone expected war to be this high adrenaline experience, and for me, in the job that I was doing, it wasn't really about that. We were very rarely shot at, and I didn't have to engage in any gunfights. What we were doing was long, slow, methodical work out for long periods of time during the day, 12 to 16 hours a day sometimes, moving across the ground, searching methodically for these bombs that have been hidden. Now, whilst those peaks in adrenaline weren't there, what this presented us with was an incredible level of underlying stress. It was like a lower level of stress, but it was always there and always present. I think it's probably similar to something which the world is experiencing now with the pandemic that's going on. It's this low level of stress which is always there and it's always taking its toll on you. But to cope with this situation, we had an extreme belief in what we were doing. Removing bombs from the ground is generally considered quite good for everyone involved. And the team which I was working with, which I was fortunate enough to lead, we were very, very close and tight-knit. We communicated openly, honestly, and talked through the stressful situations. And we always came back to that reason that we were there. We felt that it was a good thing to do. So in summary, it's just teamwork on top of a very strong vision and belief.
Wow, I mean, it sounds so teamwork, but I'm sure it was a really tight-knit team on there as well to manage that. You talked about some life-changing events that happened to you, and I know people talk about COVID-19 pandemic as being unprecedented. The same thing is true what happened to you, certainly. I know losing your legs and your limb side of it. There was obviously an extraordinary, challenging physical journey to go on, but how did you manage to overcome the mental challenges of such an injury and then go on to achieve, not only thrive in sport, but a PhD as well?
This, again, is another great question. So first off, I'll give a 3-word answer and then I'll go into more detail. So the 3 words: acceptance, choice, simplicity. Those things were absolutely key for me. And they first came to light when I was in the hospital bed. So just weeks after I'd been blown up. I was back in the UK at this point. And I was faced with a situation of whether I would accept the situation that I was in or not. The answer was quite obvious. I couldn't change the past, but I could change what the future might look like. So accepting that it had happened was a very important but very simple first step to make. So that approach of those 3 words, acceptance, choice, simplicity, is what I've tried to apply to all of the challenges I've come up against. And for me, during the training for the Paralympics, for example, it was really useful during the cold, wet winter training sessions. It was my choice to aim for the Rio Paralympics. So do I want to do this session or not? And of course I do. So I just get on with the training session because that's what I needed to do to carry out the choice that I had made. So that's where the simplicity came in. So for me, thinking about the finished product of something is incredibly daunting. So maybe, for example, you want to become an astronaut, maybe you want to run a marathon, maybe you want to write a book. But breaking these challenges down into these tiny pieces, into these simple steps, makes everything incredibly helpful. So for example, to become an astronaut right now, I need to concentrate on passing this maths or this English test. And that's all I have to worry about right now. I don't have to focus on the big goal. I can focus on that small goal. The same for a marathon. To run a marathon, I need to be able to run first off 10 meters, then 100 meters, then 1 kilometer. And that's all you have to concentrate on for now. So this is helpful for both achieving the end goal and maintaining a positive mindset, as it keeps you firmly in the present with the things that you can control right now. So 3 words: acceptance, choice, simplicity.
Great. Acceptance, choice, simplicity. Okay. Now, Alex has written it as well here. A question for you. Where does that mental strength actually come from to do that? And the words are there, but where does the strength come from?
Alex, this is a great question. It's a very difficult one. So I've thought about this one a little bit, and I think there's a common misconception that all resilience comes from you. It's all driven by yourself, and I absolutely don't think the case. Of course, some of it does, but there's also the resilience that you can build or you can gain from others. So the teamwork aspect that we've talked about throughout this classroom session. There's a common saying here in the UK, I'm not sure if it's common around the world, but a problem shared is a problem halved. And this has certainly been true for me. So since I was injured, I've had this incredible support network all around me through rehabilitation, through everything else that I've done. I've built this team up, and this team have been there to support me. People have been there to listen to my ideas, whether they're sensible or perhaps a little bit stupid, and then they've told me when I've been stupid, and they've challenged me and they've pushed me when they've needed to. So to keep me focused on what it is that I'm trying to achieve and why I achieve it, I have this network around me. So this peer support network provides me with this resilience and plugs the gaps in my own resilience where I may be struggling. Now, the other thing you need is accountability. So this is allowing others to question you and hold you to account when you're not meeting up to what it is that you said you were going to do. Now, on top of having other people around, you also have to hold yourself to account. So if you set yourself that challenge, you've committed to that challenge, you have to hold yourself to account. And going back to the answer from the previous question, acceptance, choice and simplicity, move on and move forward.
Now, there's going to be a lot of children and adults watching this program around the world, globally, translated to multiple languages, okay? Let's go down to the point here about what key message would you give them today to support them taking positive steps, just like you did in difficult times?
Okay, so first and foremost, those three words, acceptance, choice, simplicity. Understand where you are and that you've got no control over what's happened before. Make a positive choice to be present and to move forward and identify your target. Communicate this with others and be willing to hold yourself to account. I think those bits are key. You have to drive your success. You can't be a passenger in your own journey. Break your target down into its most simple form. Understand that there will be challenges, but these are inevitable. Be resilient in your approach to dealing with them. Communicate this resilience and these challenges with that teamwork, that peer support network that's around you, and apply those words as often as you need to see yourself through.
It sounds simple, but you've achieved it so well in your life. I've got to say, in terms of an inspirational person, we all go through times that we think are difficult. And I think throughout the COVID-19 lockdown, I think every child watching this program will have had a point when it became not okay and the dip came in. Now, looking at you today and what you came through, I think the message you put out there is so important, that we can accept where we are, we can go from there, we can take ideas of reaching out to people, setting those goals as well daily, not giving up, not just sitting down there on the sofa and not going forward. David, I can't thank you enough for sharing with us. A really powerful message. Thank you very much, so much indeed.
Thank you for having me here.
It's brilliant, thank you. And I think moving on from that one, we now come to a really special guest in the programme. And I think she's been hanging on now throughout the whole time and really patient to see you as well. So I'm hugely grateful of that. We're going to welcome somebody who's a real star. Lindsey Stirling into the Global Classroom in 1 second. Now, Lindsey, you see, remains fearless enough always to dream big. In the near decade since she released her 2012 self-titled debut, the electronic violinist, dancer and artist has quietly and humbly become one of 21st century's most innovative stars. Her groundbreaking vision of cinematic, violin-driven electronic music has gained her millions of adoring fans all over the world. As well as 4 Billboard chart-topping albums, she's also an acclaimed author. She's also runner-up on Dancing with the Stars, and actually one of YouTube's biggest stars. Lindsey, it's great to have you here. Now, before we look at you for 1 second, we've got a slight clip, I think we might be able to show you if you're getting ready. But I'll first of all say have a look at what you do in action, first of all. It's amazing. So, I mean, I think it's really inspiring music. So, Lindsey, how are you, first of all? How are things in California? Let's get you online. Let's get your mic unmuted and see if we can talk to you first of all.
Oh, right.
Hey,
Hi.
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Really, really good. Okay, so California's looking great over there, and it's great to have you on board.
Yeah, we're doing okay over here. It's sunny. We're inside, but it's sunny outside. So.
So we've gone through a journey today with great guests coming online, talking about mental health, getting outside, the environment, the science behind it. We've had Dave on, who lost his legs in Afghanistan and came through that and fighting through that. And now we're here with you, and we've got some questions for you to go through from around the world. Our first one is to ask you, first of all, that lots of people are saying huge fan, love your music, amazing, and that side of it, which is great. But also, music's an amazing art form where we can express our emotions, and no more so than through your music, actually. And we can share key moments of our life and relax and enjoy ourselves as well. How do you think music can support our mental well-being in this challenging time?
I mean, I know for me, music is a huge mode of release. It's a huge mode of expression. But I think even more so than just, talking about music, I think that creation is so important for mental health. I'm a creator. I love to express myself in multiple facets. And I think, honestly, that's when music became alive for me, when I took it from a place of just regurgitating and making it realize, oh, this is my way of creating. And as people, we are meant to create. That's one of our sole purposes of, finding purpose in this life. And whether that comes from creating a child, or whether that comes from creating a score of music or a piece, or writing in a journal, there is so much sustainability that comes to me as a person, and connection when I feel like I can create something. And I think that is the biggest thing that connects me to my music and really has helped me in my own journey of mental health. And that's something that every single person can do. And I'm under the belief that every single person is creative. Sometimes we block that creativity because we don't think we can do it, or we don't, maybe we haven't quite found our voice yet. But I just encourage everyone to start creating. And it's amazing what will come out of that if you give yourself the ability to just free write, or to express yourself in whatever form, whether it's drawing or music or singing, whatever it is, just let yourself be a creator. And I think there's a lot of solace that comes from that.
That's a really important mention. I think inherently we probably are born to be creative beings.
Yeah.
It's in ourselves. It's part of our soul. We say that human beings have a soul, and that's a creative thing in many ways. Mm-hmm. I think that I guess some people worry about it being a mess, and I'll do it and it's gone wrong and I'll scrap it. But I guess perhaps accepting that just being creative is the process.
It is. And you look at an album, or that song that you just played. I mean, how many songs do I have to write that are just a mess in order to find that song that I love? I can't even tell you how many songs I have in the trash can folder of my computer, because it was a mess, and that's okay. And I'm hard on myself when I create a mess, and I have to really go through that process of being it's okay. It's a part of the process. That's part of the point, is weeding out the bad in order to find the genius. Einstein created so many mistakes, he called them, in order to find the light bulb, and create electricity. It wasn't like it was his first try. He tried it thousands of times. And, just because you've gotten it wrong, 100 times doesn't mean that you're not on the verge of getting it perfect, and artistic, and, whatever it is. But creation, part of it's messy. And that's why a lot of people think they're not creative. It's just because they haven't created quite enough to find their genius.
Oh, I love that. It's fantastic. And actually, obviously, in that there are also challenges to overcome. Clearly there are as well. How did you find the strength to overcome challenges in your own life?
I love a quote from Lucille Ball. She's one of my idols. She's I Love Lucy, for anyone who knows that show. She said, I'd rather regret the things I have done than regret the things I haven't. And it just kind of gave me this resolve as a really young girl. Also listening to the stories my dad would tell me as a little girl, it just gave me this resolve of I'm going to live big. I'm going to try things. And I don't want to ever live with the thought of what if? What if I tried? What if I'd gone for it? What could my life have been like? And so because I don't want to worry about what if, I go for it. And then it's just like, oh, well, maybe that wasn't the best road to go down. I'm going to try another one. And I'm a big believer in the big picture. I love a book by Brennen Brown. I love all her books, but she has one in particular called Daring Greatly. And she talks about how if you dare greatly, if you go for your dreams in life, it's not a matter of if you fall down. It's more like when you fall down, be prepared, because you're going to make mistakes. You're going to fall down. You're going to feel like you failed many times along the way to living your dream and becoming your fullest self, because the goal, you know, the road to becoming your fullest self is full of pitfalls and hardships, and making mistakes is how you learn. And so it's not like, oh, I might fail. It's like you're going to fail a lot, but that's what makes you successful, is getting up every time. And anyone who's ever succeeded has done that. I can't even tell you how many times I've messed up and been told no and been told I'm not good enough. Some of them very public, some of them no one even has ever heard about besides me. I felt those disappointments alone. And like I said, sometimes I felt them in front of millions of people. However, the people that succeed aren't the people that never failed. They're the people that failed a lot and got up every time. And I'm a firm believer of that. So to this day, I still experience what I sometimes feel like are, oh, I failed again. I didn't make it again, or I wasn't good enough again. But then I remind myself, it's about the big picture. I've been through this before, and I will get through it again. And I just need to find my next victory.
So well, I think it's incredible, actually, because you're standing there so confidently talking about this. And I know people hold you in high regard and see you, but you're also very truthful and very honest about things. And one of our pupils wrote into the classroom talking about, particularly about dealing with mental health problems, but also about eating disorders. Okay.
Yeah.
And it came from Ellen down here. She wrote down here, how do you think we can reduce the stigma surrounding mental health problems, in particular eating disorders?
Yes. When I realized, oh gosh, it was like probably 12 years ago, no, longer than that, that I realized I was anorexic. That was a huge pill to swallow myself, because I was in denial for so long. I, just kept saying, no, I'm just really healthy. I run all the time and eat vegetables only because I'm healthy. And it's like, I believed this. And it's because I didn't understand what anorexia was. Like, I always just heard it meant that you were starving yourself. I didn't understand that it was like a mental disease. And, and I remember thinking, I wish more people would talk about this and talk about that it's not like crazy people have anorexia or crazy people have anxiety or insane people go through severe depression or bipolar. It's like, no, this is something that I think at one time or another in people's life, most people will go through one, if not multiple, of these mental disorders. And it's a part of life. It's a part of growing. And it's so common. And yet we're all so afraid to talk about it. Myself included, when I first realized I was anorexic, I didn't tell my best friends. I didn't tell my sisters. I remember I told one person, and that was my mom. I needed someone. But then as I became more comfortable with myself and I went through recovery, and multiple times, mind you. And now I live in a very comfortable place with my relationship with my body and food. And it's something I'll have to work on for the rest of my life. I just have to kind of keep it at bay. But it doesn't control me, and it never will. I will never let it control me again. And I think making the dialogue open about that this is something that we can talk about is something I now talk about super openly with my fans. It's something I talk about with my friends openly, my relationship with my body and the work that I put into self-love. And and I think that it's especially hard to talk about it when you feel like you haven't figured it out yet. And it's not something I would ever recommend people like openly talk about before you figured it out in yourself. However, it's so important to find people you trust and people that you can let into that space. And, you have to be really careful about who you let in. And then once you're feeling okay about it, it should be an open dialogue that we all have, I think, and it's something that's for every person to decide when they're ready to openly talk about it. But once you get to that place where you're okay with your body and you've let the people in that you trust and you're ready to step outside that, become a part of the solution for not only yourself, but for other people, and openly express that this is something we all have to face at one point in our life. and that it's not something we have to be ashamed of, because the more we hide it, the more shameful it becomes. You know, and for anyone who's struggling with this, I recommend researching it. I recommend reading books. I read a book called Life Without Ed that helped me immensely. I went to therapy, individual and group therapy. I attacked my anorexia with the fervor of it as if it was my full-time job. And at the time I had a job and I was a student, but you better believe I spent so much time working on myself, like with mental exercises, reading books, podcasts, all the things. I treated it like it was my other school, so that I could get to a point to not only feel okay about myself, but I could talk about it.
I think I'm just actually sort of taken aback by how you talk about this and how you're able to put it across. And you're not scared to talk about your vulnerability on there. And I think the important message there was finding people around you can trust, and then you can open up, isn't it? So, I mean, there will be people tuned in that and this is just anybody that could be struggling with this. And I just implore them to take on board your message. To go forward with that, and let's make this something we can talk about. This is not an issue. It's not in a box somewhere. You know, mental health issues, anorexia. We can talk about this, and it's fine.
Can.
So thank you for sharing that.
Well, and I just also want to give hope. I remember when I was anorexic, I was devastated when I realized that this disease not only was a part of me, but when I started to realize it was controlling my life. It had made me hate myself. I hated my body. I hated life. I was so depressed because of this. And I remember feeling hopeless is the best way I can describe it. However, that has changed as I started to work on myself. And so I want to give you guys a message of pure hope that no matter where you're at today, no matter if you hate yourself, or if you feel like your emotions are out of control, or you just feel like you can't change, get that out of there. Because change is possible, whether you're reaching for your dreams and chasing the dream of being a dancing electronic violinist, or whether you're just saying, I have a dream of being happy and loving myself and seeing myself through eyes of acceptance. If that is your dream, I promise you change is possible. It all starts in our minds. Our minds are incredibly powerful. And like I said, I actually approached my career similarly to what I learned from approaching healing myself through anorexia. It all began in my mind with a vision of what I wanted to be. And so I just want to encourage you guys to visualize the life that you want. See it, because what we focus on is what we naturally move towards. Like if you're imagining things that are negative and focusing on pessimism, you will naturally live a life that is more negative and pessimistic, and you will draw energy to you that is in that same realm. However, if you are positive, if you practice thinking positively and using the optimistic side of your brain, it literally can happen that becomes your default setting. But it all comes from tiny, tiny acts of practice. The same way I practiced the violin for years, I practiced being positive. I write in a gratitude journal every night. I practice visualizing and positive thinking. These are simple ways that you can literally change your life and change the way you feel about yourself and change your trajectory of where your goals will take you.
That's really powerful, actually, and very, very important. I mean, they're most definitely in our mindsets. There are some things negative to get hold of us, and they can dominate our vision and dominate our visioning of this. And you're absolutely right. That positive vision, that positive steps are so key. So amazing. Thank you. I've got a question now coming in from Sam, a live question. Sam, are you online still to have a chat to? Can we see you online? I can see him coming on board. I can see a picture coming up. Sam, can you hear us?
Hello.
Hi, Sam. Can we see you as well?
Are you there?
Are you there, Sam? I can hear you. Can I see you somewhere? Is the camera coming
Hello.
on? Can you turn the camera on? Hey, Sam, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Well, it's a good day for you because you're live with Lindsey right now.
Yes, I am indeed. Hello.
Hello.
Sam, you got a question for him?
Yes, I do have a question. It's a bit about your music, I think, and I guess the question is, how can listening to a lot of sort of different genres of music, as in, you know, you've got a bit of the classical, a bit of the electronic in the mix, how can listening to that create sort of different emotions and change someone's feelings and affect someone's mood? And I know people, and especially me, am really affected by music, and it makes, changes the way you feel, and it helps you sort of move away from somewhere that you don't really want to be. And I guess the question is, how does different genres of music change your perception of difficult situations?
Yeah, music is such a powerful tool for emotional response, and really is pretty awesome that well, I think in anything, choice is such an important thing to remember, that we have the choice to where we're going to stay. I think it's really important to feel things and let yourself feel the hard emotions that you need to feel. But then once you're kind of like, all right, time to get up, time to move past whatever this is that I have felt and I've accepted, or whatever hard emotion it is, music is a great pivot point to say, okay, I'm going to get out of bed. I'm going to stop feeling sorry for myself in this moment, or whatever it is, and turn on something that makes you feel, what you want to feel. Like put on, Empire of the Sun, if you want to feel alive and happy, and, and if you do want to just sit in a moment and really feel, the sorrow of something, you can play something that allows you to be true to your emotion that you're feeling and feel it. I love meditation music. I think that helps me calm down sometimes when I'm a little bit agitated. Music can be a huge support to support your emotions, or to try to counter your emotions if you're all right, time to get out of this space, time to change my anxiety, time to get out of bed, whatever it is.
That's brilliant. Thank you for sharing that as well, and thank you, Sam, for that question.
Yes, thank you, Sam.
Now, Lindsey, we're coming towards the end of your time now in the classroom. Thanks for being with us hugely. Is there a closing message from yourself to share with children around the world before we sign you out?
I think that piggybacking off what we just talked about, the power of choice, that we always have. I think that abundance and lack of abundance exist in our lives as parallel realities at all times. And it's up to us to decide what we're going to turn to. Are we going to turn to the lack that we have and the things we've lost? Or are we going to turn to the beauty that surrounds us and the things we have? Are we going to look at the silver linings? Are we going to look at the things we're grateful for that we still have? And, one of the most powerful moments where I'm sorry, I'm going to get emotional here.
It's okay.
One of the most powerful moments where I learned this so ingrained was when my dad was passing away, and he struggled with cancer for several years. It was one of the hardest things I've ever been through, to watch him deteriorate. And as he was we knew he was in his last moments, and my sisters and my mom and I all sat around his hospital bed, and we just couldn't even speak to each other because we were there was nothing to say. And then one of my sisters was like, let's tell stories of Dad. Because he was unconscious, and we didn't know if he could hear us, but we thought maybe he could. So for him, we started telling our favorite memories of him. And before you know it, we were laughing and we were crying, and I was filled with so much gratitude in that moment, and love, one of the most powerful moments of love I've ever felt, as I was losing my father, because suddenly, more so than being angry at what I was losing, I was so grateful for what I had, for this amazing father that had raised me, for my family that surrounded me, and for the love that I believe will always be there for me, not only from my family, but through him. I believe in angels. I believe that the universe is trying to help us, and I like to choose that rather than being angry at the father that I lost, or feeling like the world is out to get me sometimes. It's so easy to sometimes fall into choosing that reality, but there is always a reality over here that we have the opportunity to choose, and to say, today I'm choosing to be grateful. Today I'm choosing to be positive. I'm choosing to see light rather than darkness, because they always exist, both of them. And by choosing more often gratitude, you will live a happier life, regardless of where you live, where you're from, who you are, whatever.
Honestly, it's fantastic. Let's take a moment there and say, let's just choose light in this situation. Let's say that, light, will overcome darkness. It will shine through darkness. It will guide you in there. And there's a phrase there that the darkness flees away from the light. Yeah. So when we choose that, it starts to shine a light, and others will see that light as well. And we do hope that the time that Lindsey spent with you today has actually shone a light across the world, and a really true message. And I've got to thank everyone taking part today, everyone from Bear Grylls, from Cynthia, Lindsey, yourself as well, Carol O'Donnell, Katherine as well, from the Smithsonian, Tierney, Andrew, Heather and Dave as well. It's been a great message. And if we finish on that saying, let's take the light, let's shine our light, choose positivity, choose a love, and not focus on that negative side that can pull us down. Thanks for being in the Global Classroom, for spending time with us today, for all of us. Take care, and we'll speak to you all very, very soon.